We now know why the Bitcoin price dipped today. Someone sold $9 billion of Bitcoin into the market today, and it's absolutely incredible that it barely moved the Bitcoin price at all. There was literally a 3% dip from about 118,000 to about 115,000, a little more than that, but it's still about a 3% dip from the high of 24 hours ago to the lowest it got in the last 24 hours, which was just under 115,000. I did a post showing the graph the day that I bought the largest single purchase I made in 2021. The price had started, 30,000 something. It had spiked up to 42,000, then it had dropped to 30,000 and had recovered to 38,000 by the time I got around to buying the Bitcoin I bought. So my actual purchase price was about 38,000, even though the price earlier that day had been $30,000. And before that had been $42,000. So if you think Bitcoin is volatile, you have not been here since 2021. So Bitcoin is way less volatile. Somebody dumps $9 billion on the market. It barely makes a 3% blip. Back in 2021, you dumped $9 billion on the market, you would have had probably a 40 or 50% price correction. Anyway, it just shows you how resilient Bitcoin is and how many people are willing to buy the dips when there are dips, which is absolutely incredible. Now, you might be wondering how much total Bitcoin changed hands today. The trading volume of Bitcoin in the last 24 hours was over $100 billion. I can promise you, people on Wall Street are paying attention to this. $9 billion gets dumped, the price only moves 3%, and there's $100 billion in trading volume. That is an absolute incredible asset. I mean, absolutely incredible. The degree to which Bitcoin is maturing in front of our very eyes, the degree to which the volatility has gotten lower. And that absolutely doesn't mean it can't, at some point in the future, correct 20% or 30% due to much larger macro reasons. But the fact that someone can sell $9 billion of Bitcoin and it barely moves the price by 3%, that's absolutely insane. And then within 24 hours, we are back to within 5% of the highest it's ever been in history after somebody dumped 9% or $9 billion of Bitcoin. That's absolutely incredible. It's also a big deal because you can only sell Bitcoin that old one time. So of that $9 billion of Bitcoin, I think $1 billion of it was bought for about $8,000. So it was less than, I think it was 78 cents per coin. So the initial, I think 10,000 Bitcoin they bought for 78 cents per coin. Which turned into $1 billion. And then they bought a couple $100,000 of additional Bitcoin at about $3 and some, between $3 and $4, which is where they got the other $8 billion of Bitcoin. I think it was like 10,000 Bitcoin less than $1 at 78 cents, if I remember right. And then they bought the remainder at $3 and some, obviously triple as much, but they bought a lot more of it. So their total investment was a couple $100,000, which they turned into $9 billion. And their initial investment was about $8,000 that they turned into $1 billion. Well, guess what? That person does not own that Bitcoin anymore. They can only sell it once. So now the market price of that Bitcoin, meaning the price that Bitcoin has last changed hands, was not 78 cents and it was not $3. It was $116, $115, $117,000. Like, I meant thousand in all of those. 115,000, 116,000, 117,000, somewhere in there. So the price that person got for that $9 billion Bitcoin, now all of those people own $115 or $116 or $117,000 Bitcoin. Those people are much more likely to be along for the ride through the ups and downs for the path ahead than the guy that's been sitting on it for 14 years. So first of all, congrats to him. Anybody that recognized the value of Bitcoin that early and was willing to buy that much of it, good for them. Most people back then thought Bitcoin was nothing, it wouldn't make it, it was a scam, it was a Ponzi scheme. You know, they just couldn't fathom that something they were buying for $1 could be worth $100,000. And whoever this is, we don't know who it is, but whoever it is, they had the courage to say, I'm going to buy $8,000 of this, and then later on I'm going to buy another $150,000, $200,000 of this thing that nobody thinks is going to have any value. And they had the courage, they had the conviction to spend that kind of money, which is absolutely incredible, incredible. So Bitcoin is an amazing beast, absolutely unparalleled. The fact that it can absorb $9 billion is absolutely incredible. One second here. The fact that it can absorb that much sell pressure is absolutely, sorry, I'm being invaded. The fact that it can absorb that incredible amount of selling pressure, bounce back in less than 24 hours, and keep going strong is absolutely 100% incredible. So Bitcoin's amazing, stronger than ever, lower volatility than ever, and just an absolute beast. Good job for Bitcoin and good job for whoever just, I wouldn't have cashed it out. I don't know why they would ever turn $9 billion of Bitcoin into anything other than $9 billion of Bitcoin. But apparently they owned a lot more Bitcoin than that, and that was not all their stash. So anyway, they just were looking to diversify things a little bit, which is not what I would have done. But again, I don't own that much Bitcoin anywhere close to it. So have a great night, everyone. Thanks.